From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
A federal judge in California blocked President Trump's asylum ban. What this means for the thousands of migrants seeking asylum from their home countries in Central America.
Plus, the California condor faced the possibility of extinction years ago. We'll track the efforts that are now boosting their population.
And do you think you've got what it takes to be an FBI agent? We take you on a behind-the-scenes look at how these agents apply for duty next.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Jordan Daphnis.
And I'm Matt Lively. Thank you for joining us tonight.
The White House and federal agencies are fighting back in the latest border battle. Last night, a federal judge ordered a temporary block on the Trump administration's plan to deny asylum to migrants crossing the southern border. Thousands of migrants have already arrived at the border and are staying in Tijuana. President Trump issued a rule blocking their right to apply for asylum earlier this month. Judge John S. Tiger from U.S. District Court in California handed down the ruling, saying that President Trump's proclamation conflicts with immigration law and the expressed intent of Congress. Spokespeople from the Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security released a joint statement saying, in part, our asylum system is broken and it is being abused by tens of thousands of meritless claims every year. As the Supreme Court affirmed this summer, Congress has given the president broad authority to limit or even stop the entry of aliens into this country. The restraining order will remain in effect until December 19th, when the judge has scheduled another hearing.
Members of the Phoenix community who help many of these migrants once they reach the United States say they are often misunderstood. The First Church UCC has worked with both Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the Phoenix Restoration Program, providing food and temporary shelter to hundreds of migrants after they've applied for asylum in the U.S. Senior Pastor James Pennington says he's had a hard time understanding some of the decisions made by President Trump when it comes to immigration policy.
I think these immigrants and these refugees would be really contributing to our culture and to our society. And I really think it's important to consider that. So if he does and is allowed to, because supposedly he can make those decisions and those edicts, I just think that's not healthy for our country, because we can't, we just can't close our doors and our hearts to people that are seeking a better life.
According to Minister Pennington, the number of immigrants being released into their care by ICE has gone up considerably in the last few weeks. First Church UCC also had the designation of a sanctuary church for some time.
Even before today's asylum policy debate, hundreds of migrants from the caravan have already arrived near port of entry in southern Arizona. Douglas Mayor Robert Uri told KVOA that 2 busloads of Honduran migrants are now staying in shelters and private homes just across the border in Agua Prieta. A Mexican official said some other buses from the caravan were turned back because Agua Prieta could not handle the influx of people. President Trump might also give new authority to military troops who protect the border, personnel, and federal property. It would allow the nearly 6,000 troops at the border to intervene and protect migrants if they engage in violence.
AirBNB has been a provider of living spaces for people looking for a place to rest their heads. Now, the company is opening its doors to refugees here in Phoenix. Reporter Cammie Clark explains AirBNB's Open Homes program.
This house looks no different than any other here in Phoenix. But this house is used to help house refugees through the AirBNB program Open Homes, which has several partners, including Hospitality Services Center and the International Rescue Committee.
When IRC called and said AirBNB was asking if we would be able to cooperate with them, we felt like that was a really good match.
The refugees stay in the home for about 1 to 2 weeks for free. It's just part of the services the IRC offers.
Here in Phoenix, we help resettle refugees from around the world. When they first arrive in Phoenix, we help them find housing, employment, healthcare, education.
As of September 2018, AirBNB has been able to house more than 15,000 people through Open Homes, according to their website. During the wintertime, it can be harder to house refugees here in Phoenix. AirBNB is making an effort to get more hosts.
Hearing from someone you trust about something like this is so impactful, and so we're trying to spread the word person by person, neighborhood by neighborhood, because we know there's a huge interest in Phoenix in helping.
Though there may be some uncertainty about who is coming into your home, the safety of open homes help refugees, many from the war-torn Congo, settle into new lives.
They're fleeing violence and they're looking for a safe place to land. So I think that's probably the biggest hurdle to get over, is in people's minds who the refugees are and is it safe to have them in my home.
AirBNB is looking to expand their open homes program to include other causes. In Glendale, Cammie Clark, Cronkite News.
In 2017, AirBNB had pledged $4 million to the International Rescue Committee to help aid critical global populations over the 4 years, according to the AirBNB website.
Arizona Governor Doug Ducey met with Senator-elect Kyrsten Sinema today. Ducey tweeted out that he and Sinema had a productive meeting about issues they can work on together, including Arizona's water future. CNN is reporting that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is lobbying Governor Ducey to choose Martha McSally to replace John Kyle in the Senate should he leave before his term ends in 2020. McSally, a two-term representative, lost her Senate bid to Sinema 2 weeks ago.
The Arizona Supreme Court's justices elected Justice Robert M. Brutnell as the next Chief Justice and Justice Ann A. Scott Timmer to serve as Vice Chief Justice. Brutnell is a former Yavapai County Superior Court judge, and Timmer is a former State Court of Appeals judge. Both justices will serve 5-year terms starting July 1st.
Today on Transgender Day of Remembrance, the Rainbow community on the Arizona State University campus hosted a visual remembrance. They're honoring the 22 transgender people killed worldwide this year, according to the Human Rights Campaign. Reporter Holly Bernstein takes us to the event and shows us resources available for those who might need it.
Trans Day of Remembrance, it's usually a very solemn day because we're remembering the impact that stigma and transphobia has on our community still.
Michael Lewis is at Hayden Lawn representing TransFam, a club focused on helping transgender students find community and access to resources. They identify as non-binary.
It's not cosmetic, it's not a choice, it's something we're born as, and we just want to live.
Today at Hayden Lawn, visual displays remembered those who have lost their lives this year due to transphobic violence, which is violence that relates to a person's gender identity. According to Gayatri Girirajan, the Director of Community Coordination for the Rainbow Coalition at ASU, there are a lot of ways violence can be inflicted upon people who identify as transgender.
A lot of transgender people experience intimate partner violence. There's a lot of just street violence. There's a lot of violence due to the professions that trans people, often trans women of color, are forced to kind of be a part of because of the criminalization of their identities and lack of access to jobs because of discrimination.
Girirajan says transphobic violence can take forms aside from just physical.
Being misgendered every day or being denied the ability to express yourself as you truly are.
Lewis says their group wants to support transgender individuals.
In the end, everything will be okay, and you have a community and you have family here who will love and support you unconditionally, even if people in your life might not.
Transgender people who need someone to talk to can call the Trans Lifeline at 877-565-8860. There are also several resources at Arizona State University and throughout the valley, including 1 in 10 in Trans Spectrum of Arizona.
Thanksgiving is just 2 days away, and some of us may be taking time off from the gym.
But coming up on Cronkite News, we're not taking any breaks as we train with FBI agents.
Plus, learn about the efforts to preserve a historic cemetery right here in Phoenix.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia.
From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
It's a little change to the law that supporters could solve a big issue for one Arizona tribe. Lillian Donahue in our Washington bureau has the latest on a bill that's under consideration in the Senate.
The Gila River Federal Rights-of-Way, Easements and Boundary Clarification Act would give the Gila River Indian community 3,400 acres if it passes, solving a long-standing trust issue between the United States government and the tribe.
Every tribal nation has come to a point of dealing with either mismanagement or undermanaged record keeping.
And it's that mismanagement of records and trust lands by the government that has made infrastructure planning difficult for tribal leaders in the Gila River Indian community. The House bill now pending in the Senate is in response to a lawsuit filed by the tribe a decade ago to regain land and trust rights they say were encroached upon more than a century before.
Almost 150 years later, the Gila River Indian community sought resolution in the court, and ultimately the Department of Interior agreed to a settlement.
They want to make sure sacred sites are protected by them and not outside influences, and this will allow for that to occur.
Representative Tom O'Halloran introduced the bill and says it's just one part of a larger effort to right wrongs that have lingered in Indian country for too long.
It's a never-ending process right now, and it's not been I think the Congress has not done its job over the last number of decades.
The Gila River Indian community is located south of the valley, stretching from Goodyear to past Queen Creek. Councilman Barney Enos Jr. says that the tribe wants to be good neighbors to Phoenix, while also restoring rights to their people.
Number one, preserve, but also to ensure that the folks affected by this don't become victims of a dispute.
In Washington, Lillian Donahue, Cronkite News.
The bill would prohibit gaming on the affected land, but while the bill has already passed the House, time is running out in the Senate, which is only scheduled to be in session for 3 more weeks.
For decades, a piece of land on Phoenix's south side has hid the secrets of hundreds of early Latino settlers who helped build the city, many of them buried in a place that seems long forgotten. Cronkite News reporter Brittany Watson talked with activists and community members who are speaking out and hoping this piece of the city's history gets the recognition it deserves.
Vandalized, trashed, abandoned, this unmarked field is the final resting place for over 300 Mexican pioneers who spent their lives helping build Phoenix in its early days. This nondescript patch of land located off 12th Street and Broadway is actually the Sotelo Herd Cemetery, with its earliest recorded burial dating back to the late 1800s.
Phoenix wouldn't be what it is today if it wasn't for those people who were the foundation of the city of Phoenix, and somehow we forget that.
Many residents who live near Sotelo Herd don't even know their homes are just yards away from a cemetery, a place where many children were also buried. Some of those who do know say they've seen this final resting place get trashed.
I'd often see people riding their motorbikes and running across the field, throwing rocks and messing around. I don't think they had an idea of it being a cemetery.
The Pioneer Cemetery Association has worked to preserve historic cemeteries like Sotelo Herd by salvaging and removing what they can of the damaged headstones to try and preserve what little is left. Litchfield Park resident Ellie Roman has spent years researching her ancestors, eventually finding out that 8 of them were buried at Sotelo Herd, a cemetery that she had never even heard of before.
I was really surprised we had so many family members there, but it made sense. They were ranchers, laborers, They work the herd ranch. My different branches of the family, they've all been here, it seems like, from the early 1900s.
But a lot has changed since that time.
Currently, the cemetery is enclosed on two sides, leaving the other two sides exposed. Representatives from the nonprofit organization that own this land say that they do not have the money to finish all the improvements that are still needed.
The nonprofit organization Trellis owns the land where the cemetery sits. They were supposed to build low-income housing on part of the property, but that clearly hasn't happened.
Unfortunately, the market crashed, and to this day we haven't built anything, but we have just maintained the land.
The Pioneer Cemetery Association and Trellis have proposed improvements, including building an iron fence along the south and west perimeters, having a monument, and adding an entrance to the cemetery on 12th Street. The repairs will cost thousands of dollars. The main question now is, where will that money come from?
We need everyone's help to raise the funding to finish this beautification project for Sotelo Herd Cemetery.
To know that their babies or family members are there, not to have that respect is just heartbreaking.
In Phoenix, Brittany Watson, Cronkite News.
Representatives from both Trellis and the Pioneer Cemetery Association say they have plans to speak with the Phoenix City Council about taking ownership of the land and maintaining the cemetery. There's still no set date on when that meeting will take place.
The California condor faced extinction as recently as 2 decades ago.
But coming up on Cronkite News, find out how the species is making a comeback.
Holiday season is finally upon us, and we are seeing those cooler temperatures on the top half of the southwest region. Current temperatures coming up next on Cronkite News.
Recovery efforts are still ongoing in California as forest fires continue to burn across the state. The California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection said the Camp Fire in Northern California is now 70% contained, and more help could be on the way. Rain is expected in the area later this week, which could help the ongoing fight. However, officials warn that this could lead to flash flooding and mudslides.
Earlier this fall, 4 California condors were released by the Peregrine Fund at Vermilion Cliffs National Monument. Next month, more condors will be released in California. Cronkite News reporter Emily Four explains these releases are part of an ongoing effort to bring the condors back from the brink of extinction.
I ended up kind of falling in love with it.
Nadia Seal Faith, Conservation and Science Associate for the Santa Barbara Zoo, is reminiscing about California condors. Seal Faith works to understand condors and their nesting habits. By 1987, all 22 condors left in the wild were taken into captive breeding, an attempt to save them from extinction.
It's not only a fascinating species, but it's been a fascinating program to work with.
Through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and other organizations like the Ventana Wildlife Society, California condors have since been reintroduced into the wild, and their population is slowly growing.
In fact, this year is really exciting because this year we had a record number of nests in Southern California. There was 12. That's the most of any that we know historically.
Yet, condors are still battling their leading cause of death, lead poisoning. Condors are scavengers and eat the remains of animals killed by hunters.
The only issue is that lead ammunition fragments into many, many, many tiny pieces inside a carcass.
Rachel Wolstenholme manages the condor program at Pinnacles National Park. She says she doesn't want to discourage hunting, but she wants to offer alternatives to lead ammunition.
There's copper bismuth, rifle ammunition. There's also steel shot. If people are using lead shot right now, like in a shotgun, there's steel shot.
But Wolstenholme is hopeful California condors will be taken off the endangered species list in the near future.
I've seen 6 or 7 flying just over the high peaks there. I like to say less than a decade. I actually know we could get there sooner. It's all about making sure that they have a clean food resource.
There are currently 44 California condors managed by Pinnacles National Park. In December, 3 more will be released from this site.
We do what's called a soft release. And so what we do, we'll open the trap door for them so they can leave when they're ready.
Joint efforts and successful releases keep Wolstenholme and Seal Faith motivated.
It's just been so collaborative, and it's so great to see so many people, wanting this bird to succeed. And I think that's just been really special to be a part of.
In Los Angeles, Emily Four, Cronkite News.
There are 5 condor release sites in North America, one of them right here at the Vermilion Cliffs in Arizona. Condors can also be seen at the Grand Canyon.
Horseshoe Bend is not only one of the most scenic spots in Arizona, it's also one of the most popular, leading to huge problems with parking. A National Park Service plan to expand parking is now underway, but the city of Page has had to close the north parking lot for construction and place other restrictions until the project is complete in March. But for now, tour buses with more than 20 passengers won't be able to park on site, and people will be prohibited from parking along US 89. It's Thanksgiving week here in Phoenix.
That's right. Let's go to Alexis in the Weather Center to see how the weather will be for this holiday. Alexis?
Good afternoon, everyone. It is finally Thanksgiving week, and we are feeling those cooler temperatures here in the valley. 78 degrees right now here in Phoenix, hitting a dew point of about 22 degrees. And for the next 8 hours, we will be dipping our toes into the 60s at about 68 degrees at 7 p.m., going all the way down to 60 degrees at 11 o'clock later tonight. Looking at the high temperatures around the state tomorrow, we're going to be topping off here in Phoenix at about 75 degrees up north in Flagstaff, 55 degrees, 67 in Globe, and 76 degrees in Yuma. The big question is what can we expect for Thanksgiving? We'll go ahead and pull out those light jackets because we're going to be topping off about 71 degrees, and it is going to be mostly cloudy outside. But speaking of Thanksgiving, we have a lot of family events going on later this weekend. As you can see, we have the cityscape going on. The 23rd at 6 p.m. is going to be 65 degrees. Go ahead and bundle up because we're going to stay in the 60s for the Phoenix Zoo, Scotts Dazzle, and Mesa Lights at 63 degrees the 23rd. As we look into the 7-day forecast, we are going to have a couple of cloudy days out there, but as we dive into the weekend, we are seeing nothing but sunshine. On Saturday, it's going to be 70 degrees, ending my week on Tuesday at 68 degrees. From the Cronkite Weather Center, I'm Alexis Leal, Cronkite News.
Do you think you have the skills to be an FBI agent?
Coming up on Cronkite News. Find out what it takes to join their team of skilled professionals next.
If you're looking for one show that tells you what happened that day in the world of business, it's NBR.
We saw a classic shipwreck.
Nordstrom's opening stores.
Triple-digit gains.
Crude climbs.
We're there to help our audience find new investment ideas.
The market still has room to go up.
Nightly Business Report is the longest-running business television program in history.
Weeknights at 10:30 on Arizona PBS.
I'm Matt Berry, ESPN Sports Center anchor and graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. With its bachelor's and master's degrees in sports journalism, the Cronkite School is preparing the next generation of sports journalists to tell stories that matter, stories that excite, inspire, and inform. Cronkite immerses students in covering sports at all levels in one of the country's top sports markets. It's this hands-on experience under the guidance of award-winning sports media veterans that shape the top journalists of tomorrow.
The FBI is looking to hire 900 new special agents. Everyone is encouraged to apply, but as our reporter Anthony Totri found out, there are some requirements you've got to meet.
The FBI Fit Test. 4 events, 12 points required to pass and prove you meet the physical standards to make it as an FBI agent.
This test was designed to
push that and lets you know that, yes, physically you can handle this. You can handle the firearms aspect of it. You can handle the defensive tactics aspect of it if you do engage with a perpetrator of some sort or a subject that you're after.
This test, for the person who stays in shape and takes care of themselves, should not be difficult.
I go to the gym a few days a week, so I figured, how hard could it be? Well, the test starts off with 60 seconds of sit-ups.
It's a little harder in journalism.
My 47 in a minute earned me 4 points. Next up, the 300-meter run.
Go!
A time of 48.2 seconds added another 3 points to my total. Halfway done, 7 points. Supervisory Special Agent Azelle Grigsby says there is one simple key to passing the test.
Train. This is one portion of the process that you have the answers to the test.
Back to my exam. For push-ups. Similar to the first event, the goal is to do as many as possible, but in this part of the test, there is no time limit. Just do as many as you can till you can't go up anymore.
Way less than I thought.
I only got 1 point for my 32 FBI-approved push-ups, putting me at 8 points heading into the final step. Not too far off from jumping from journalist to special agent. Then came the 1.5-mile run.
We can use that break now.
With only 5 minutes rest in between each event, I definitely felt the toll of the test. So how'd I do on the run?
I lost 2 points.
After dropping 2 points, I ended with a final score of 6. It looks like I'm sticking to journalism after all. In Phoenix, Anthony Totri, Cronkite News.
If you have any interest in looking to become an FBI agent, the FBI developed the FBI Fit Test app to help people get accustomed to the test. The app will count your push-ups, sit-ups, and give you your timed rest.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.